Have you ever updated one of your favorite aircraft, jumped into the cockpit, gone to flip a switch with your hardware like you always have, and suddenly nothing happens? Switch doesn't move, buttons are dead, and you swear you didn't change a thing? You're not crazy, and your gear isn't broken. The aircraft changed underneath you. A bunch of newer planes, much like this SimWorks Studio Kodiak 100, quietly switched over to something called scoped LVars. And if you don't know what those are, your old bindings just quietly stop working with zero explanation. Today, I'm going to show you exactly what these new LVars are, how to find them, and how to bind them in HangarControl so your switches come right back to life. So stick around. One app designed to do it all. HangarControl brings everything together: control bindings, hardware configuration, mod and profile management, application launching, add-ons, config files, and more, all managed from a single application. Mods Hanger goes beyond just mods and add-ons. It manages profiles, config files, text files, backups, snapshots, and helps keep your community folders clean and organized. Application Hanger launches your entire Sim stack with a single click. Your Stream Decks are fully controlled through the HangarControl plugin, while all of your other Stream Deck plugins remain active and available. Built by a simmer for simmers, HangarControl adds new features and hardware support every week based on community feedback. It's a one-time purchase with lifetime updates, no subscriptions. You can try it for free for 5 days with no restrictions at overkillsimulations.com. Just create an account, head to your account page, download the latest version, and get started. And if you're looking for in-depth Microsoft Flight Simulator aircraft tutorials, check out my Patreon site. Links to HangarControl and Patreon are down in the description below. Alright folks, so first off we're going to start like I always do. If you are interested in HangarControl, you must create your account on the website first. So go to overkillsimulations.com, create your account first. If you want to do the trial, the 5-day trial period, you can simply click the red account button, download the software, and begin the game. If you are interested in purchasing it, you can then purchase it, but you must be logged into the site. That is still a requirement. Either one of those, if you are not logged into the site with a created account, you will get an error. Okay? So, now let's talk about what we're here to discuss. Let's talk about what these scoped LVars actually are, because the name sounds way different than what it actually is. So first, a quick refresher. An LVar, or local variable, is basically a switch or dial inside the aircraft's brain. When you flip the fuel pump or turn a knob, the plane is really just changing a number value behind the scenes. The number is the LVar. Bind your hardware to that number, and boom, your physical switch talks directly to the plane, and that's the magic behind running this hobby for years when dealing with LVars instead of SimConnect. Now, here's what's changed. It used to be that every LVar had one single global name, something like SWS, Fuel Switch Pump 1. One name, one variable, done. The catch with global names is that they're shared. Every copy of that aircraft is looking at the same pool of variables, and as planes, you have gotten more complex variables. That shared approach starts to get limiting. You want each individual aircraft to be able to keep track of its own switches, its own state, without everything reaching into one common pile. So the Sim added scoping. Instead of one shared global variable, an aircraft gets its own private copy, and the way you tell them apart is a little tag stuck in the middle of the name. So L:SWS Fuel Switch Pump 1 becomes L:1:SWS Fuel Pip Switch 1. So the little 1 wedged in there just after the L, that's the scope. That's the whole difference. It basically means that this switch on this airplane's own private copy is not shared with the global one. Here's why that wrecks the old bindings. The global version and the scoped version are two completely different variables. Even though the name looks almost identical, your old binding is still pointing to the plain SWS Fuel Switch Pump 1. You're now writing to a variable that the airplane doesn't even read anymore, even though you can likely still find it in the list somewhere. You're flipping a switch that's not connected to anything, and that's why it feels broken. Nothing's actually broken, you're just talking to an old address that they moved. The good news is, once you know the trick, these are easy to find just as simply as the old ones. The only caveat is you won't be able to automatically search for them, as the new SDK does not currently support exporting those out to a public list. For example, now we open up the SimConnect Picker dialog, or if you're in spad.next, you can pull up the LVar list, but the scoped variables are not there. Okay, so let me show you guys how to find these now and get them bound correctly. Show you guys what we're working with. The first things you're going to want to do is you want to make sure developer mode is turned on. So you can hit escape, go to the options, go down to advanced, and enable developer mode, and you will be presented with the toolbar up top. Then we return to the cockpit. We're going to hit tools, behaviors, and you get presented with two different windows. Now this window we do not need. We can close this one. One of the big catchers here that you want to watch for is if this isn't working, if you go to do these steps and they don't work, is pay attention to the title bar. Notice that it is currently blue. If I click into the cockpit, it goes to black. That's what you want to see when executing this next step. You want this to be black because it lets you know you're clicked into the cockpit. Then, using our fuel pump as the example, as this is actually an issue that came up in Discord and caused some confusion, I want to use this as the same example for today's video. We are then going to mouse over. You can see the cursor is changing, so we can click on the switch. But we're going to mouse over and we're going to hit Control and G for golf. And you're going to be presented with this. Now here's the misleading point that will stick somebody. You can see that now, in this didn't even exist previously before this most recent update, is it shows input events. Now, you would think that you can use these because these are B events. Unfortunately, SimWorks Studios did not implement them as a standard B event activity. So even if you tried to bind one of these to a B event, and these will absolutely show up in the SimConnect Picker dialog for HangarControl and probably many other software as well, they won't actually do anything. What you're interested in is if we come up here to update codes, here is that scoped LVar that we were talking about before. Now, if you are not on the latest version of this aircraft, the old LVars will still work perfectly fine. And what you will see is instead of that :1 is you would see L:, and then the SWS fuel switch pump 1. So you need to be on version 2 or above, and I will show you guys how to find your version number to make sure that you're executing the proper steps based on the version of the aircraft that you have. Again, this particular video is specific to this aircraft. However, it is not necessarily specific to this aircraft in regard to the terms of scoped LVars. So if we come here to my community folder, you can see we're in the Kodiak Wheels aircraft. We're going to come down here to Manifest. We're going to edit with Notepad or Notepad++. I highly recommend getting Notepad++ if you don't have it, as it reads significantly easier on the eyes. We're going to open that up. Drag it down here so everybody can see it. And here is our package version number right here. That's what we're interested in. Even tells you the minimum game version that's required, but at the end of the day, this is what you're looking for. If you have a version that is less than this one, I believe the one previous was 1.6, then you will still be using this standard LVar event without the scoped number. So again, anything below the 2.2 version will have L: SWS blah blah blah, or whatever aircraft you happen to be flying. If it is a scoped version, that's where you will see the L: and a variable number here. So we can close that now that we've verified what version we're on, and let's continue with the binding process. So now we're going to move over into HangarControl. So moving into HangarControl, we're going to go to Control Bindings. Make sure Microsoft Flight Simulator is selected. Choose our desired profile. This is just for testing, so don't worry about it. Make sure our service is started, or any commands that you try to send will not go through. You'll know that the service has successfully started because this button will turn from gray to black and then will now be clickable. We're going to go to our device that we wish to bind to. I'm going to use this button here. And for now, I'm going to clear all of this out. We want a fresh start for us, but I want to show you guys what you could see. If we go to Browse Events, and we change to LVars, and we simply do SWS : now I've already forgot what it is. I believe it was switch, right? Let's go back and look. Yep, fuel switch. There we go. So SWS, and we should just be able to type fuel. And that no longer comes up. It's because the old LVar is no longer exposed, and this new one is not exposed at all. So, what do? We're going to first select LVar here on the left, telling HangarControl that we're entering in an LVar. And then we want to enter this information here. Just that first line with inside the parentheses. You do not need the parentheses themselves, just the value. So again, begin now. We're going to have L:1: SWS _ fuel _ switch _ pump _ and 1. Now, this triggers the LVar event. What we want to do next is we want to be able to add all those cool features. Increment, decrement, set value, whatever it may be, bind to an axis, however it may be. So we're going to come here to edit LVar. You must type in this information first, then you can hit LVar. If you leave this blank and try to hit edit LVar, you'll get no LVar selected. And then we can see the LVar has been populated up here. And now what do we want to do with it? We're going to use this one as an increment. You can also use the execute functionality to test it. However, it has nothing there. It's going to continue to climb, but this position, switch position, doesn't have anything further past position 2. So let's go to decrement instead. So there's 2, which is the position it's in, 1, and 0. Okay, so we're going to go back to increment because of the type of button it is. It's a top button on a hat. So we're going to hit save and close, and save all. And then when I execute that button press, we now have our activity back. So it's a very simple process, not much more to it. It does require a little bit more legwork on our part, and if I find a way to expose these variables automatically, just like standard LVars, so you don't have to type them in manually, of course I will be adding that in. But as far as I'm aware, the only way to do that right now is to go one by one and add them in manually. And the problem with that theory is if SWS or any other developer changes them later, well, they would break again and we'd have to go through this all over again. Now, if you don't like typing them all out, I will show you one other trick that you can do. Still requires a couple of steps, but it's still faster. You can come into here, into this window, and you can simply right-click and copy to clipboard. Then open up another text document and paste it in. From that point, you can then grab the piece that you want, hit Control-C or right-click and copy, and then you can paste that directly into HangarControl or whatever service you happen to be using that supports this behavior. Okay, and that is the other catch to make sure of, but I think pretty much all of the big players do. Myself with HangarControl, Spad.next, X's and O's. I believe everybody is supporting scoped LVars with the latest SDK in Microsoft Flight Simulator. So, that is the only catch there, but another quick way to grab the information you're looking for without having to type this stuff in manually. Okay? The other thing to pay attention to is you don't want to use these. I have heard of people accidentally trying to grab these, and those are different. These are strictly for the animation, so even if you get them to work, it likely won't actuate the function that you're looking to do. For example, if we were to use this, it would probably move the fuel pump switch, but the fuel pump itself would not actually come on, as this is strictly, as you can see here, for the animation. Okay? Anyways, I hope this video helps. Please consider trying out HangarControl if you haven't already. It is an extremely powerful app. It handles everything from your control bindings, to touch panels, creating custom touch panels, integrates beautifully with the new software from Flying Art called Glass Out, so you can create your own touch panels with the actual PFD or MCDU or whatever it may be behind your touch panels. Works on wireless devices, local devices, whatever it may be. We also control all of your mods, tools, and add-ons, as well as the ability to launch your applications and much, much more. It is an incredibly diverse software. I highly recommend you guys check it out. The documentation for the software, once you have downloaded the free trial, can be found right up here. And you can click on that, and it is quite extensive if you guys want to take a peruse of that. Again, it costs absolutely nothing to start the free trial, and there is no commitment requirement. And there's also no limitation in the trial. If you are on the trial, you have full access to the software. Nothing is restricted, nothing is hidden until you purchase. Okay? So again, stay safe and healthy, folks. Have a wonderful week, and I'll see you in the next one.